So I'm not like the others. I feel like a lot of people could relate to me in this, especially if they care about the truth in this world. My goodness. Because when people are going about talking about their everyday life, materialism, oh, I got to go to work today, got to do this, oh, got to go see this sports game, got to maybe watch the sports game that is also called politics, while getting blindly robbed by every politician. Well, I guess we should ignore that and just focus on the sports games, focus on our daily life while getting blindly robbed, while ignoring the fact that there is this greater potential of truth or purpose, that we can be our own philosophers, that we can write books, that we could do paintings and art and all the things that a lot of people say they want to do, but they feel like, oh, I don't have enough time to do that. Oh, I'm always working on other things. What contribution are you going to give to humanity, my friend? Are you going to forget about your soul, your essence, what child you had within yourself that wanted to explore and imagine and create things? I mean, are you just going to pass it all off and be like, nah, I gotta be by the current norm of things, gotta just do what the mainstream media, what the mainstream narratives are to do. And even if I'm against them, I have to be that outcast then, who's cool, who's not talking to anybody, who's in my own lane of doing things, because the world's not gonna listen to me, and I'm gonna do drugs, and I'm gonna do psychedelics, I'm gonna see all these things, and but I'm still not gonna create anything. I'm still not gonna do anything productive to help the world or find solutions or try to reach those in the dark. I'm gonna complain. I'm going to, attach onto this thing or that thing, the next best thing, even if it's things that other people are attaching to, being the outcast just to be the outcast. But you could be somebody like me, who maybe you can say, Corey, I want to categorize you in this box. Can't do that. I don't want to fit into a box. I don't want to fit into an ideology. I don't want to use a certain symbol. I don't want to use a certain substance. I don't want to find one way of doing things here. I want to be able to have my open mind and see this world of potential, which you can greatly do simply by returning to nature, which is something that everybody has access to. But how often do they do it? How often do people at night or any time of day really take the time to be patient, sit down, breathe, or focus on what's going on? How often do people sit down, question, look at every different source, alternative in their life, and find out, does it really work better than what I've been doing all my life? How often do people challenge their own ways of thinking to see, wait, maybe there's a better way of thinking? This is who I am, and this is who I want to remain being. The individual who's always improving, who is never settled upon one way, but rather seeks to find the best way by experimenting and seeing all these other ways outside of there. So naturally, I'm an outsider, but also naturally because I'm unique, because I am an individual of my own. So I'm not trying to be an outsider, I simply am. And that is a beauty that is simply inherent within our nature, that if we embrace, we realize we have this potential and the ability to do what other people cannot do. But people have long channeled away from that, and they don't know how to get back to their childlike imaginative state or their natural state. And so then they jump to the latest thing that can potentially help them cope through their life without having that, when in reality, that might be what they desire. The body desires nutrition. The mind desires to be free. We desire to keep our money. But yet we hold ourselves back by justifying governments that steal our money, by justifying unhealthy food that literally makes us sick and has killed all our other family members. I'm sure most people, I can say that is the case. And so people live with contradictions they know are contradictions. They'll do it anyways. There's motorcycle or car accidents. I see all happen all the time. People are still going to use cars, they're still going to use motorcycles and be like, oh, well, this is just part of society. This is the way we do things. Don't limit yourself. We're in the modern century to the point where we have choices. In previous centuries, people stayed to their own. They didn't leave their own house. They had a community. They didn't have to travel more than 5 miles out of their way. Now you can. Doesn't mean that's what you should do just because you can. Or just because everybody else is doing it does not mean that you should do it. Sounds like a very simple premises, doesn't it? But yet, a lot of people will ignore their own conscience when it comes to right and wrong to follow the orders of some authority figure. Another contradiction. People are living with contradictions, and everywhere where you have a contradiction, you have somebody turning their back against nature. And everywhere you want to cure a contradiction, it requires stepping back to see, what am I doing to my nature? And what does nature desire from me? Because when you take that step back and you go into nature, then you say, wow, this world is full of mystery. What am I doing here? Look at these senses. Look at how this water feels, these elements. Look how, I feel powerless in this powerful world because I'm just one being, but also I feel very powerful because these natural elements are moving me with it. I'm able to stand and withstand that. I've been able to live all this time. All my ancestors brought me to who I am, but how often do people realize that? In the school system, kids are taught to be obedient to authority. They're not taught to critically think for themselves or use any sense of personal creativity. Sometimes they're told, draw this, draw that, but they're being told what to draw. They're being told what to do, told what to think, and they don't really cultivate it for themselves. The only time they do is when they're not in school and they're outside of school. They're playing on the playground. They're playing outside in nature. They're, digging up soil and some people are gonna be like, oh, they're causing trouble because they're free and they're roaming and they're expressive. But yet, if they let them be more expressive and free, they would learn and they would see things and they would be able to possibly create things. But if you didn't let them have that freedom, you would never know. In fact, by holding people back and saying, maybe you have to live by this set doctrine or ideology, maybe you make the situation worse. You say, I want to make this principle, ideology, I want to impose this on my child. He's going to do this, they're going to do this and do that. And you may say, I think this is the best way for my child. This is how it should be done. And yet, because of your controls, you actually end up making a more uncontrollable child. A child that actually is rebellious, who doesn't want to be told what to do. So there's this tricky balance that people are dealing with in this life. And it all has to do with the Tao. It all has to do with the balance of the yin and yang energy, so the masculine and feminine and the chakra systems and whatever else you want to look at. Because everything in this life is connected. You leave out one part, you realize, oh shoot, there's a huge gap here. And then you have to fill up that part and you say, oh shoot, there's another gap there. Oh shoot, it's like playing whack-a-mole. Boom, boom, boom. Oh man, they keep popping up. Why do they keep popping up? And then you get a friend and be like, hey, we can do this together. Now there's less popping up, but there's still more popping up. Right? And you can partially blame a lot of problems for the cultures and to mixing the internet, the people in general being people. You can say it's in the nature of people to be the way they are. But again, you look at the Stanley Milgram experiments and you look at the Stanford prison experiments and you see that it's actually there's programming going on. Actually, there's systems that aggregate certain behaviors that don't have to happen. And you usually see it with religions, with ideologies, and with politics, which is why I focus on it. So why am I different from others? I'm not going to focus on the sports. I'm not going to focus on the entertainment. I'm going to be entertained time to time, but it's not going to be the focal point of my conversation. That's not what really matters to me. I'm not going to say, everybody watch this game. Oh my gosh, it's super important. And I emotionally invest myself in it. I'm going to emotionally invest myself in not getting robbed anymore, because everyone is getting blindly robbed while they distract themselves with everyday activities. By politicians, they're getting robbed, and yet they say, oh my gosh, there was a robber, he stole this and that, but meanwhile there's these politicians who are robbing you every single time, and they're allowed to because people perceive them as morally legitimate for doing so. Absurd. And yet how many people are putting the effort to be like, this is the case, and we have to teach people, and we have to show people why this is absurd. People are just be like, oh, nah, nothing we can do about it. It's like, okay, well, we might as well just let the robbers run free, robbing everything in the town. Let's just let the robbers do their thing, man, and let's just let them keep coming back. And, no one's going to fall for that, but people are going to fall for, oh, well, it's written down on some piece of paper. It's written by some guy in a fancy suit and tie who was elected through this democratic process. He's still stealing your money. End of story. I mean, if nobody has the right to steal money, nobody has the right. So are you going to steal somebody else's money? No, because you don't want them to steal your money. Okay, now, if you think people's money should be stolen, are you going to do it yourself? No. Okay, so then why should you hire other people to do it for you? Unless you're a gang or mafia boss. But again, they're going to be perceived by the average public as immoral. Difference between a mafia and a gang or government is the government is seen as moral. Difference between a government and an organization or a business is the government is involuntary, meaning you have to comply. Businesses, organizations are voluntary. You don't have to comply. You can leave the business. Oh, there's unfair conditions. Leave the business. Go to another business. Oh, I don't like this product. Don't have to buy the product. That's simple. It's very simple how we live our lives. Most people do this every day. It's called voluntarism. Yet most people have never heard of it. So then people who say, oh, well, the world's never going to get better, are you teaching that idea? Most people in the so-called freedom movement complain about the world not getting better. They're not teaching voluntarism. They don't even mention statism, half or more of them. They want to talk about, oh my gosh, Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and these guys, and look at what they're doing. It's all the stuff that rises to the top. What's the roots? The roots is statism. You start looking at the symptoms of the disease, you're just going to be on a never-ending trajectory of distraction. Just as bad as all the people you're claiming are distracted by the entertainment, you're distracted by the entertainment of the independent alternative media. And this is why I created, precisely the reason why I created the Liberator 2 News. Because I'm sick of the trajectory that independent media has been going. I'm sick of the world and the trajectory it's been going. But nonetheless, I'm not going to be like, man, everybody's got to get better. I'm going to do the work myself. And I expect others to do the work. I do hope people do. Okay. I'm not going to live and depend on an expectation because I'm doing the work myself. But it would be nice to see. It'd be nice to see more people caring about the truth and caring about the purpose and evolution of humanity, ending slavery in all its forms. I would hope that's very important. And if you want to, that's why I set up the Liberator 2. But you're not going to see that anywhere else. Name me one other place where you're going to see that. You can see the One Great Work Network. Oh my gosh, it's a individuals, it's not open to the public. Oh, you have some subscription services. Oh, you got to pay and watch this content creator, watch this conference. Where's the public involvement? Where's the long-term goals? Where's the mission underlying saying this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to achieve? The abolitionists, their cause literally was named End Slavery, abolitionism, end slavery, anti-slavery meetings, it's anti-slavery. Everybody knew what they're trying to do. Everybody organized in their own state. There were newspapers called different things and had variety there, but all aiming toward the same thing. Everybody knew what it was about. Not difficult. What have we done today? Confusion. Oh my gosh, fear. This, that. Oh, drug. No, look at what this person's doing. Oh, look at this news story. You got to pay attention to this. They're injecting the food. Yeah, it's not actually enlightenment. It's not actually moral empowerment. In fact, it can be the exact opposite. It can lead into more fear. So if you want to actually be part of real change, true freedom, join the Liberator 2. And if I'm not around to do it, you do it too. This mission forever evolves past me and past my time, and I expect it to. And that is something that every generation will have to deal with, is people who don't want to promote the truth and other people who are driven to support the truth. No matter what goals are done, that is what's going to always happen throughout history. Better that people start realizing that now than later, because as it is, World War II was not even 100 years ago. Ending slavery is not even 200 years ago. And there were governments back then that lasted over 800 years. America's not even 300 years old. And the decline of the Roman Empire, morality, the same reasons Americans falling. You look at the Tytler cycle, look at Toynbee and his cycles of history. They're all saying all governments are democracies, essentially. People do prefer king and queens, and democracies are still monarchies, and it's all still the same thing. It's all still on the same roots. If you give people authority over your own life, you don't have your life. And that's it. End of discussion. Health, end of discussion. Politics, end of discussion. Everything in life. Give people authority over your own life. You're not going to have your life. It's just that simple. You tell people how to live their own life. You're trying to play as God. You're trying to play as nature, right? You can't do that. You can attempt, but that attempt will result in democide, will result in chaos because it's not intended. It's not natural. Again, you are not God. You are nature. Is this really hard to comprehend, my simple message? Because people are going to have to jump in with, oh, but what about this, what about that, to try to justify their slavery, try to justify their immorality in a condition of a world that they don't know, and so they fear it. Don't fear the unknown, just as you should not fear death. Stick by what you know to be true, regardless of what anyone says, and you'll be different, just like me. And you probably won't be entertained by the other things that people are entertained by, but you will be entertained by the massive amount of people who are trying to achieve freedom, and you will be ecstatic. enlightened by meeting others who are also in it for the same effort. I mean, it's a beauty that cannot be replicated. You're like, this is something that, like, I can have a conversation with some of these people and be like, no one else in the world is having this conversation, at least as much as we are right now. I mean, that's what we're talking about, you know? And I hope for more people to catch on to that, because I don't want to be the special one. I don't want to be the one only talking about it. The whole world could be talking about it, and they should. Thank you very much for watching. Corey Angelat, Nature is the Answer. Freedom for everybody.